What's up, everybody? Welcome to a PlayStation Conversation. I'm Greg, and this is the pride of Long Island, Colin Moriarty.
Beyond to you, Greg.
Beyond to you. It's funny he mentions Beyond yesterday on Podcast Beyond, episode 279. We had a long conversation about Sony marketing and how it sucks. It's just terrible. They make these things, the games don't sell, none of these exclusives. People didn't even know Sly Cooper came out yesterday. Sly Cooper Thieves in Time, out right now. 8.0 IGN.com. You should be playing it, but nobody knows. Then things happen. Colin, tell me about it.
I mean, the conversation kind of spawned, Greg, from our conversation surrounding Superbot Entertainment, which is the studio that was made specifically to create PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale, and Greg's looking around his desk for something. Oh, there it is.
I have it. I have a copy of the game with you back there.
One of 10 copies in the wild of PlayStation All-Stars. And we started talking about, how PlayStation has these great games, especially in 2012, and how these games came out and no one cared. And if developers are making good games but no one cares, who do you point at to blame? And I'd say it's the bad advertising.
Right.
So
Sony can't market their way out of a paper bag. These guys like Superbot, they're making great games. Zanzaru making Sly Cooper, making these great games. But if nobody knows, it's not on the developer, right? That's the whole reason you have, people get lost in this all the time, right? That there's publishers and developers. Developers make the game, then they hand it off to the publisher, Sony, and then it's Sony's job to get the game out, to get the word out about it. They rely on their marketing budget, their teams.
Yeah, and we know a lot of devs, and you would be hard-pressed to ever find a dev that makes a game for the money. They make a game because they want people to play it. They believe in the game. And so when a game like Twisted Metal comes out, or Starhawk comes out, even Sports Champions 2 or Sorcery, PlayStation Move games, and obviously all culminating with PlayStation All-Stars, and these games come out and they don't sell, it's because of lack of advertising, or with PlayStation All-Stars, specifically in the United States, terrible advertising. And it just so happens that on VentureBeat yesterday, which is a great website you should go to, they announced just fortuitously here on my document here that I printed out, that they, after 6 years, have severed ties with their old advertising firm and have hired a new advertising firm, likely because of the slow sales maybe of Vita, of PS3 software, and likely also because PlayStation 4 is on the horizon. So, Greg, maybe things will change.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, this is what we're always talking about, right, is that PlayStation has this hardcore fan base, and PlayStation as a company puts out all these exclusives. Last year there was like a good exclusive every month that you could only play on PlayStation 3, but that's never equated to them blowing Xbox 360 away, right? Xbox 360 is allowed to sustain on the fact that they have this online infrastructure below, so they play Call of Duty there, and then they have once in a while a Gears, a Halo. There's a big release, and then we start talking about, is it the fact that there's only one or two huge Xbox exclusives mean that the general populace can just save their money and spend it on one? Whereas here it's like, well, I gotta make a choice. I can't buy Sly Cooper and PlayStation All-Stars and God of War and The Last of Us. I have to pick one.
Right, and it's a predicament, but when you look at the numbers and you kind of study the numbers that we do have, you realize too that there's something else going on, that a game will come out, like MotorStorm is a really good example, by Evolution Studios, which is a studio that Sony owns. The original MotorStorm sold very well, millions of copies, but every other MotorStorm game has actually sold much, much worse. The Resistance series is another good example of a series that sells, the next game in the series sells worse every time. And that's a weird thing to happen when the install base of a console is growing rapidly. The PlayStation 3 is like 70-something million units in the wild now, but a game like Uncharted 3, which sells really well, would only sell a few million copies, 4 million, 5 million copies maybe.
Yeah. That's
not good enough, considering that Halo 4 just came out in November and has basically outsold every PlayStation 3 exclusive with the exception of maybe God of War 3 and Gran Turismo 5.
You gotta Microsoft's great at making their exclusives events. You see trailers, you're in the movies, and remember when you'd see the Gears of War trailer going, it was like, holy crap, that looks awesome. The general populace knows it's coming out, they get excited, they rally behind it. Like Beyond Two Souls, like granted, that's not being advertised yet because we don't know when it's coming out, but even when it does, is there gonna be a movie trailer? Is that gonna sell to just the mom and pops out there? No. It's only gonna sell to nerds like us. You watching this thing, you're a nerd like us. Sorry, heads up.
Yeah, I mean, Quantic Dream's last game, Heavy Rain, sold basically on word of mouth, and it sold really well, a couple million copies. But which is good for a PlayStation 3 game. That's always what we say. It's good for a PlayStation 3 game, and I think that we're PlayStation fans, but we don't make excuses at all for the brand. And I think a lot of people out there like to make excuses for the fact that God of War sold well, and Uncharted sells well, and Little Big Planet 1 sold well, and stuff like that. But what about all the games in the middle? What about all the games that come out and don't sell even though they're great? And then what happens to the studios? Just look at the wake of changed or closed studios that PlayStation has left in its wake this year with Twisted Metal, with Starhawk.
Big.
They closed 3 of their own studios with Big and Sony Liverpool and Zipper Interactive. It's very confusing. You think that why make the games at all if you're not gonna try to sell them?
Yeah.
So it makes me worried a little bit about PlayStation 4 in the sense that, hopefully they learn their lessons. It seems, according to VentureBeat, that they are indeed going to learn their lesson, that they want to try something different to advertise these games, and we hope for the best for them. But the games speak for themselves, but if no one plays them, then they don't know that, and that's disappointing for us because we actually get to play all the games.
Yeah, exactly, and we get, we just get to play them here for work and everything else. Time's gonna tell. if this changes anything, if anything's going to change with this year PlayStation 4. Remember, February 20th, come to IGN.com. What the hell, we're going to be in New York seeing something at this PlayStation Future event. We're predicting PlayStation 4. A whole bunch of cool stuff, I imagine, as well. So, for everything PlayStation, for every PlayStation conversation, keep it on IGN.